Sure. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you join us tonight. This, as Wes kind of teed up nicely, is perfect timing for this presentation because we've just started the financial aid packaging for freshman students. And so we're just going to get right on into, talking about the financial aid process. And the first thing I want to stress is the FAFSA is the first thing. The free application for federal student aid is available now for the 25-26 school year, which starts obviously, it starts with summer of 25, but for most of you, you're really looking for aid starting in the fall of 25. If you have not submitted a FAFSA application yet for 25-26, it is not too late. The FAFSA application is actually available for just under 2 years for a whole cycle. So you can still apply at studentaid.gov. And we want all families to submit the FAFSA regardless of family income. It is important to note that every student, regardless of family income, will be offered a federal student loan. And we don't want students to take out loans that they do not need. So by saying that every student is eligible for a student loan, we're not saying that by filling out the FAFSA, you have to accept the loan. If the student doesn't need it their first year, then great, don't take out the student loan. But we want all families to submit a FAFSA each year simply because we have certain funds of money or pots of money that require a student to demonstrate some type of financial need. And we determine that financial need by the results of the FAFSA application. And a student doesn't have to have the lowest student aid index, that's the calculated figure from the FAFSA application, or the highest financial need in order to be eligible for some of our need-based scholarships. But because the donor put a need component on there, we cannot consider a student for scholarships without that FAFSA application. And the FAFSA that it was just revised or simplified in the last year. And if you've heard anything in the news, you know that the first rollout last year was not a positive experience for families, but it has improved dramatically for the 25-26 year. And if you are able to successfully pull in your tax information directly from the IRS, which is a requirement if you are a tax filer, it takes about 10 minutes to submit the FAFSA application. So I can't stress enough, please just do the FAFSA every year. It's available annually. The families must reapply each year. But don't miss out on opportunities for certain aid simply because you didn't complete the FAFSA application. So I will get off my soapbox on completing the FAFSA, but we would like to have every student have a FAFSA on file each year. Wes also teed this up nicely, and you will hear this probably in every presentation you listen to from here on out. You will hear this when you come to orientation. You will hear this when you start your classroom experiences. My Buckeye link is the portal to all things Buckeye business. But it is also really important to know that that is where all of your financial aid information will be located, as well as your billing and payment information. We do not mail financial aid offers home. We do not mail billing statements each semester when the billing has been turned on. Students are sent an email to their OSU email account, letting them know that their financial aid offer is available. And then they're directed to log into a Buckeye link to check the status of their financial aid. Same thing with billing. When we begin the billing process for each semester, students receive an email saying that their bill is now available to view online, and they log into Buckeye Link to view that bill. Nothing is mailed home. So we cannot stress enough that a student should be logging into Buckeye Link on a regular basis, especially now all the way through the summer, because they're going to want to kind of tune out once they're graduated from high school and they feel like they have a lot of their OSU business situated and settled. That doesn't stop. We will continuously be sending different emails. You do not want to miss those opportunities. So making sure that they're logging into Buckeye Link on a regular basis and checking those emails consistently, pretty much from this time out to graduation, because they'll miss timely information by not checking those emails. Also in Buckeye Link, if a student has any items that need to be completed, and this could have anything to do with the admissions process, such as turning in their final high school transcript, or doing a financial responsibility statement, or maybe some to-do items for their financial aid. So checking in regularly to Buckeye Link and looking at those to-do items and making sure that all of those to-do items are completed in a timely manner. Financial aid offers, as I said, started last week. So if a student has submitted a FAFSA application, they should be receiving an email here soon saying that their aid offer is available for them to view on Buckeye Link. If you have submitted a FAFSA, we're going to go through some of the screenshots of what you should be looking for to make sure that your financial aid is in order and that everything was in place in order for us to put a financial aid offer together for the student. But on Buckeye Link, that is where a student will be able to view their financial aid and accept or decline some of our aid. They have to actually accept or decline, such as a student loan. We don't auto accept student loans for a student. So those offers will be out there for a student to make a determination on. Funds that are free grants, such as the Pell Grant or the Buckeye Affordability Grant, those are automatically accepted. The student doesn't need to accept those. And then, as I said, Buckeye Link is also where you would view the statement of accounts, the billing statement each semester. So again, checking Buckeye Link and the student's email account on a regular basis is key to success. So let's take a look at a few of these screenshots to give you an idea of what you would be looking for when the student logs into Buckeye Link and you go under financial aid. So the first thing here is where you would view financial aid. Once you go into the financial aid link, there will be right now just one financial aid year there, the aid year of 2026. And then the student would click on that hyperlink where it says 2026, and it will take them into their to-do list, which is right here. So that's the first tab here is their to-do list. If the student has submitted a FAFSA and we have received it, it will be logged here as having been received. Just to make sure that you know you should have completed the 25-26 FAFSA application. The 24-25 FAFSA application is still available because our currently enrolled students can still complete that application. So if you log in here and you see the aid year 2025, and you click in and you see that we received your 24-25 FAFSA, you may have done, well, you did do the wrong year. You want to make sure that you have the 25-26 FAFSA marked as received here. Now, when the FAFSAs are received from federal student aid, if a student has, if something on the FAFSA popped up to federal student aid that they have selected the student for a process called verification, anything that we need for verification will be added to this to-do list. So if a student logs in and all they see is the FAFSA is received and it's completed, there's nothing else they need to do right now. Nothing has been assigned to their financial aid to-do list. If we need verification documents, those will all be listed right here. If you log in and you get to this aid year 2026 and you think that you have submitted a FAFSA application and you see this where it says there is no financial aid information to be found, then there's obviously an issue. And at the very end of my presentation is you will receive the contact information from my office. But one reason why your FAFSA may not have loaded into our database is if when you applied for admission, you did not list your social security number on your admissions application, then when the FAFSA was received by Ohio State, it could not find a student to match up with because it's looking for the social security number on the admissions application to match up with the social security number that was on the FAFSA application. So if you're like, I know I did the FAFSA, I know I listed Ohio State, and you log in and you see that there is no financial aid information to be found, then the next thing I would do is check to make sure that you have added your the student's social security number to the admissions application. And once that is updated in the system, about 48 hours later, the FAFSA application should load and you should see it marked as received here. So here's an example of a student that was selected for verification. So on their to-do list, it says that we need a dependent verification form. And we always provide a due date here. And that is just to keep families moving through the process so that if we put a due date there, that you'll have that information submitted in a timely manner. Once we have received it, the status will say received, and once we've reviewed it, it will say completed. This will be a hyperlink right here that will take you to the form that we are looking for you to complete and submit to us. So making sure, again, that you are checking these to-do list items. When you first log into Buckeye Link, there's a to-do list, and it will have a whole section of things. So it can have financial responsibility, final high school transcript, and then financial aid information. But once you log into the view financial aid section of Buckeye Link, the to-do list here under financial aid is just those items that are related to the financial aid application process. So items that we might ask if you were selected for verification is verification of income. So sometimes families that submit a FAFSA application were not able to do that transfer from the IRS to their FAFSA application, the tax information. If that was not successful and you had to do it manually, some of those applications get selected for verification, and we will ask you to provide a copy of your 2023 tax return, your federal tax return, just to make sure that the information you data entered manually matches the tax returns that we were looking for that information. So not very many students are selected for verification because of that automatic transfer from the IRS to the FAFSA, but there could be something that flags us and requires us to put something on this to-do list. Now, in most cases, what is marked here on the to-do list will not stop an incoming freshman from being packaged with financial aid. It will just be all estimated until that verification is completed. So we do put financial aid offers out for students that have pending verification items because we want you to be able to see your financial aid offer as soon as possible. But please know that that financial aid offer is not final until those to-do list items are completed on the FAFSA or on the Buckeye Link. The next tab under financial aid is called SFA status. And if you click into here, you will again see if you submitted a FAFSA, the date that it was received. And then this estimated cost of attendance, that is the maximum amount of financial aid that we are allowed to give a student based on that cost of attendance that was assigned to them. And when you see that cost of attendance figure, you may panic a minute, but don't do that. That figure is not just tuition and fees and an estimation for books. It also includes an estimation for housing, whether the student is planning to live on campus or the student is planning to live off campus or with parents. It also is an estimation of transportation and miscellaneous and personal expenses. So when we put a financial aid offer together for a student, we must look at the overall cost of that it cost a student to attend the college for a 9-month period of time. So don't panic when you see this figure. And then we take that figure and we know that that is the maximum amount of financial aid that we can give the student for the academic year. So let's look at a couple examples of some financial aid offers, and that will be on the third tab under financial aid, under aid summary. And the first thing that we present to the student is the aid offer for the whole year. And then if you scroll down below that, we break out that aid offer into summer, fall, and spring. Now, for students that are beginning in the fall, they clearly won't have, it'll say summer, but it will not have any aid bucketed there. We award all students starting that are starting in the fall for the first time, we will award their aid for fall and spring. So you'll see the annual amount plus broken down by term. This case scenario here, the student is eligible for the Pell Grant, a couple institutional grants. They've also been federal work study where they can work on a job on campus and earn the amount that is awarded to them in that job. Now you see here are these grants, these top 3, they were automatically accepted for the student because we make the assumption that any free money the student does not have to pay back, they want to accept. So those funds are automatically accepted. The work study, however, is not automatically accepted and student loans are not accepted. If a student chooses to accept the student loan, in their version of Buckeye Link, there's an accept and decline button right beside each offer. So right here, they would see an accept and decline button. The student does not have to decline it. If they don't want it, they can just leave it alone and ignore it and it stays there. Or if they decline it, then the award will be zeroed out. It does not have any impact regardless on their other aid if they choose to just leave the aid offer out there. By accepting the work study, they're letting us know that they're interested in working on campus. And there is a hyperlink here to a work study, which will take the student to additional explanation of the work study program. The same thing with all of these funds. These are all hyperlinks that will take you into view, well, what is a federal Pell Grant? What is federal SDOG? And what is a federal subsidized loan versus a federal unsubsidized loan? And I want to tell you the difference real quick on the student loans here. Students are offered a maximum of $5,500 as an incoming freshman, and based on their financial need, all of it could be unsubsidized, or a portion of it may be subsidized and a portion of it unsubsidized. And the difference is on the subsidized loan, interest is paid for the student by the federal government while they are in school. So if a student is offered both a subsidized and an unsubsidized student loan, and they know they don't need all of that loan money, they definitely want to start by accepting the subsidized loan first, because clearly you want the one where the interest is not accruing while the student is in school. On the unsubsidized loan, interest does accrue once each disbursement is sent to Ohio State. The student does not have to make any payments on either of those loans until 6 months after they graduate or cease to be enrolled at least half time. Then you will see down here, this student in this scenario was offered the opportunity for parents to make up the balance of that cost of attendance. So remember in the slide back here, this cost of attendance figure, that was the maximum amount of aid we could give the student. We make up anything that, we've offered this student the maximum aid that we could give them in their name. And then we offered this student a Parent Plus loan. And that would be a loan that a parent would borrow in their name on behalf of their student. And if this parent is interested in borrowing this loan, they do not have to borrow the amount that's listed here, but they would click this hyperlink and it would take them to the application process for the parent loan. Excuse me. Also on this slide, very important information about a student's rights and responsibilities about being a financial aid recipient. If the student were to not enroll full-time, because all of these aid offers that are sent out right now are based on full-time enrollment. Some of these funds will prorate, or the student may not be eligible to receive if they're not at least 12 hours or more. And most incoming freshmen are 12 hours or more. But if the student is unable to carry a full-time load, they could click here and see, well, what happens to each of my funds if I am not attending full-time? If the student is applying for any outside scholarships or some outside entity needs to see a copy of their financial aid offer, a student can print their financial aid summary here, and it would give them a nice printed version of their aid offer that they could give to an outside entity. All right, so here's an example. So not every student is eligible for a federal Pell Grant. That is one of those funds that is based on a student demonstrating financial need. In this scenario, this student had some unmet financial need, and that is why they are receiving just a portion of a subsidized loan. And then the rest of their $5,500 in their loan eligibility as a freshman is made up by this unsubsidized loan. So it's just important to know that each student's aid offer will look different based on their FAFSA calculation results. And then in this case, the student has the plus loan eligibility, obviously a larger amount, since we weren't able to offer the student any grant money. And again, the same slides or the same links on this screen. Okay, going to shift now to talking about scholarships at Ohio State, like Wes had already talked about. But we do offer more than $1 million in scholarships each year to students that are attending the Newark campus. And if you would like to view that scholarship directory to see the different types of scholarships, you can go here to this quick link. We do have we do request that a student log into Scholarship Universe, which is our scholarship application process. We have some scholarships that are tied to a deadline date, and that date to apply is March the 31st. So the student logs into Scholarship Universe using their name.number and their password. They answer some quick questions, basically set up a profile about themselves. And the more questions that the student answers about themselves, the more matches they may have to scholarships. And in Scholarship Universe, there's two things happening. The student is being matched with scholarships that are awarded by Ohio State. And then Scholarship Universe also has access to thousands of other scholarships that are not related to Ohio State. And by answering these questions, the student is finding matches to other scholarships that they may qualify for. But it is most important that a student who's interested in applying for the scholarships available at Ohio State-Newark, that they get into Scholarship Universe and start completing that application process before March 31st. And please tell students not to wait till March 31st, because some of those scholarships require an essay and additional information, maybe a recommendation letter from a teacher or a community service director, and they don't want to wait until March 31st and not have all of that ready to go. So students should be logging in right now and looking at Scholarship Universe. So as I alluded to, most of our scholarships do not require a student to take additional steps, but they're encouraged to answer as many questions as they can in that profile to be matched to as many of our scholarships as possible. And then there will be another set of applications that will pop up to the student that they can complete that may require those essays or a recommendation letter. Awarding of our scholarships will begin at the end of this month or early April. And our awarding process goes all the way through the summer and honestly, somewhat through the academic year. So as students are sent offers, we send offers to a student's OSU email account, and we usually give them 2 to 3 weeks to reply to that offer by submitting a letter of thanks to the donor. If we don't hear from a student by the due date that we specified in that offer email, we will go on to the next student and start making offers to the additional students. So again, cannot stress enough that students need to continue to check that OSU email all the way through the summer, because they may not get an offer in our first round and the second round may not go out until June, and they may be picked up in that offer, that round of scholarship offers. So checking that OSU email throughout the summer is just important for so many reasons, but definitely for scholarships. And as we have students that are enrolling in the fall and some may not return in the spring that were offered a scholarship, we may still be making offers even in the spring semester of next year. So students should be continuously looking for those scholarship offers to come to their OSU email account. Here's an example of a couple of our scholarships that even when a student answers a few questions, they still will not qualify for these. They have to take an extra step to complete a separate application, all built into Scholarship Universe. The Harry Binkovitz and Lackey Klein Scholarship, the student just needs to write an essay on the Holocaust. Pretty darn easy scholarship to get. It is valued at $2,000. And some years we have 5 applications and some years we have 25 applications. So encourage all students to get out there before March 31st and apply for that one. The Park National Bank and Associates Next Generation Challenge Scholarship. This is a scholarship for students that live in any of the 28 counties where Park National Bank and affiliates are located. So Franklin County, Licking County, Fairfield County, 28 counties. That pretty much includes a lot of our students that come to OSU-Newark. And the only requirement other than living in one of those counties is submitting an essay on community service. And then here's just another example of the Alethea Slate Scholarship. That is for specifically for Newark area residents or Licking County residents. So please encourage your son or daughter to get out to Scholarship Universe, get that profile completed, answer as many questions as they can. And for those 5 or 6 that have additional applications, have them get those applications done to just maximize that amount of free money that they will receive to help pay toward their tuition. And here's our contact information. You can reach us by phone or by email. We are pretty good at responding to email within about 24 hours until we get to the fall rush. And then we take a little bit more time to get to emails. But you certainly can call the Student Financial Services office if you have any questions. If you go to look into Buckeye Link tonight or tomorrow and you're not seeing the FAFSA loaded there and you're not sure why, we can do some troubleshooting with that by letting you know Yes, I can see that the FAFSA has been received, but we don't have the social security number on file, that type of thing. We can also, if we can't see that we've received the FAFSA, but you're pretty certain that you did it, we can log into Federal Student Aid's website to see if we can see a FAFSA out there. So we can troubleshoot a little bit with you by calling our office. It is best that you call with the student if possible, because we really need to confirm and talk to the student as well as the parent. So just a couple other things I want to just kind of talk about quickly before we look at any questions that you may have. Selective service is a requirement for males 18 to 26 that they register for the draft through the selective service process. And while that is not a requirement anymore to receive federal financial aid, it is a requirement by the state of Ohio that any student, male 18 to 25, that is registered at a public institution in the state of Ohio must be registered with selective service. So if you have a son that is 18 now or will be turning 18 through the summer, between now and the summer before the start of the semester, please make sure that they get on as soon as they've turned 18. I'm pretty sure you can do it within 30 days prior to the 18th birthday, and get them registered with selective service. If not, that student is charged out-of-state fees until we receive that selective service registration. So it's easier to just get that taken care of as soon as the student turns 18 so that you don't have to worry about that when you come to the billing time. And if they don't turn 18 until sometime in, the fall, after fall semester started, they'll be fine for fall semester. But as soon as they've turned 18, they need to get that registration completed so that they're not assessed those out-of-state fees. For student loans, I mentioned the student does not need to accept them, but when student loans are offered to a student, there are 2 documents added to their to-do list. They need to sign a promissory note and they need to complete entrance counseling. Those 2 steps can stay incomplete and it will not hold up any other financial aid eligibility except for student loans. So if a student says, I'm going to decline my student loans on the aid summary tab, they don't need to take any action on those 2 items on their to-do list, the entrance counseling and the master promissory note. They will just stay incomplete throughout the academic year. And again, they do not hold up any of the other financial aid. When you register for orientation and you come to campus, you will be slotted a time that you are available to come over to Student Financial Services, and our staff will all be out at the front desk area so that we can help manage the number of families that stop over. Even if you're not planning to use financial aid and you don't have any questions for us, we greatly encourage you to come over and visit our office during that time, because we don't just go over the financial aid, we go over the billing process and we talk about the selective service registration. We talk about the requirement to have health insurance. And if you do have health insurance, how to waive that health insurance. So we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to come over to Student Financial Services. It takes about 5 minutes to you just stand there and talk to a staff member. And we just go over through some of these items that we find help you be better prepared for the start of fall semester when the billing is turned on and we answer some of your questions and give you some FAQs. So that is the end of my presentation.